5-Year Mission, the podcast, episode 5.
This week's episode of 5-Year Mission, the podcast, is brought to you by Fansets, the place for amazing pin collectibles. See all the pins and collectibles they have to offer at fansets.com, and stay tuned for this week's special 5-Year Mission, the podcast discount code. Fansets, we are Star Trek.
What is that?
Podcast.
Now you figured out that this is the 5-Year
it.
Mission podcast.
That's all.
If
we can get, we should do the podcast.
So I'll just get right to the point.
Just podcast.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's it?
Do your podcast.
And then we'll go into the actual music for it.
Yeah.
All right.
By now you figured it out.
What?
Welcome to the 5-Year Mission podcast.
You mean 5-Year Mission, the podcast?
Oh, I messed it up already. That's why Andy is more of a host.
That's right. I am one of your co-hosts, Andy Fark, a.k.a. Fark, just plain and simple.
How do you pronounce your last name, Steve?
Palopoli.
Palopoli.
Yes, you got it first time.
Wasn't sure if it was like Monopoly, like, Palopoli. Or...
Right. That's the other one that I get a lot, but I've gotten everything over the years from like Palopoli to like Palopolis to like Palopoli. The Greeks, it's actually Italian, but the Greeks want to add a lot of vowels.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Sometimes people I've gotten letters where people just gave up and they did like Steve Pal. They didn't even want to try.
Hey, it's Steve P.
I'm not your pal,
exactly.
Yeah, I'm not your buddy, pal.
Okay. So introduce our guest, Andy.
I thought we pretty much just did. Tonight, our guest is writer Steve Palopoli? Palopoli.
Oh, no, you got
pepperoni.
it the first time and not the second. Steve Palopoli.
Palopoli.
Yeah, get it right, Andy. He's not a board game.
Get it right or pay the price, just like Salute Your Shorts.
And this has been 5-Year Mission, the podcast.
No, I'm glad to be here. Hello, Andy. Hello, Mike.
So, Steve, we know who you are, but why don't you tell our listeners who you are?
So I am a writer and newspaper editor out in Santa Cruz, California. I run a newspaper called Good Time Santa Cruz. That's an all-weekly out here. But I also write for various other outlets. I do some stuff for Playboy. And I did this for StarTrek.com. I did 2 articles, as you guys know, on 5-Year Mission.
Oh, we know.
Oh, you know, yes. But yeah, so how I discovered the band was actually really strange. I had been just starting to show TOS to my daughter, who's 9, Frankie. And, she liked some of the episodes. She loved like Trouble with Tribbles and she loved Shore Leave. When you're a Star Trek fan, you sort of want to make an impression on your kid about like, no, this is like a big deal. Star Trek's a big deal. Because none of their friends know what it is. They're like,
right.
Star Trek. Maybe with the new J.J. Abrams movies, that's changed a little bit, but
a little bit.
The 3rd and 4th grade, it's a wasteland for Star Trek. So I was like, okay, I'll find the episodes. Trouble with Tribbles. There's got to be a song out there about Tribbles or something. And I came across on iTunes one of the songs from the Trouble with Tribbles EP, and I think it was Patrick's. So I heard that. She thought that was super cute, but I was like, 5-Year Mission, like that name indicates more Star Trek goodness. So I, clicked through, and all of a sudden I was like, wait, Shore Leave, like that. I mean, this is an episode that she had already watched like 20 times. I mean, she was so into Shore Leave. So she heard that song, and that was just it. Like, how with kids, they just lock into something.
And they have to watch it over and over and over.
When she is 65, she's going to be fans of you guys. You know what I mean? That's like what it's like with like kid allegiance. So, so she just, there was something about Shore Leave because of the way it goes through the plot. And she liked that because she was sort of processing like these new science fiction ideas, but it's also just really funny. And that's, she's a big fan of Looney Tunes. She's a big fan of Muppets.
Right.
So humor is like a big deal for her. So, and Star Trek, you know, it's kind of funny. It has its funny moments. Obviously, Triples is funny, but
Yeah.
it sometimes it's a little self-serious. And so I think to hear Mike sort of talking about what were the sort of silliest things in the episode just kind of opened her eyes to like, oh my gosh, like it is funny. Like this is so cool, but also hilarious. So after that, her interest in Star Trek got a lot bigger and took a while to get to this point, but it got to where she'd want to listen to the song that you guys did before she'd decide whether she wanted to watch the episode or not. You know, so, and it also, you guys probably know this too. Like, if there's any way to really thoroughly discover music, it's like every detail of music, it's like listening to it with a kid because they're so intense and they want to listen to it over and over again.
Absolutely. No, my son is the same way. He just turned 8 this year. And for the longest time, from the time he was like 6 years old up until now, like one of his favorite bands has been Slayer.
No way.
Slayer,
Oh my God.
Slayer, Sepultura, and Iron Maiden are like his big three. And like every single time we would go out and have what we call Dude Day, which is basically going out for tacos and haircuts. He would always want me to play Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast, and we would listen to that album.
8? Did you say 8 or 28?
Exactly.
Okay, not 28, 8.
Oh
wow,
yeah,
no,
but both of my kids are basically like 8 and 10, going on like 40.
Wait, Mike, what does Ruby listen to?
Well, nowadays she listens to a lot of pop music.
Yeah.
Hey Ruby, what do you listen to? 21 Pilots.
My daughter was my daughter Charlie was actually just talking about 21 Pilots earlier.
Yeah, she went to their concert recently. So she listens to that kind of stuff now. But when she was a little bit younger, she didn't have a choice. So she listened to a lot of what I listened to. And there was one point where she claimed that her favorite song was Too Fast for Love.
Oh, of course.
She probably doesn't even remember it now.
True.
You must have been so proud, though.
Well, yeah, she knew all the words, and it's pretty funny to watch a 3-year-old sing that song.
Oh yeah, my kids at like bath time, I would always put on music, and I would let them choose, and they would remember, because I have a strict rule in my car: no kid music in my car, and so they would like listen to whatever I was listening to. So bath time would roll around, and they would be picking like the Clash and the Ramones and the Buzzcocks and stuff like that. So they were hip kids.
Yeah. Frankie's first band was B-52s.
Nice.
Of course, who doesn't like the B-52s? But
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't that into them growing up, but she just loved them. I've taken her to see them like 4 times. She got to interview Kate with me at one point.
Oh my gosh.
And then, yeah, it was really cool. Then she got into like Talking Heads and just sort of like, I was like, okay, this is like a new wave kid. Let's go with Blondie and stuff. So, but I think that kind of primed her. I mean, you can sort of, the 5-Year Mission has a ton of different influences, but
Yeah.
I think clearly you guys draw from that sort of new wave indie rock a lot. So she's already kind of speaking that language, you know?
Yeah, well, because when you interviewed us for the articles on StarTrek.com, we talked about some musical influences, and we kind of got a little in depth, like Patrick's influence are like XTC and Queen and things like that. And then Chris is really into the Talking Heads, David Byrne.
I think Patrick and Chris definitely have the most influence from that era.
That era, yeah. Mine was always a little more like underground punk rock and like metal stuff. So.
And Andy, that was really interesting when we were talking about how you drum for just how you come up with drum parts for the different member songs. You were kind of saying like, Mike and I sort of came from the same background.
Yeah.
Like sort of that pop punk.
That
so that,
West Coast
it was
fat record stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It felt like maybe the link was a little more intuitive.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, like he and I bonded over like Motley Crue, and then found out that he listened to like NoFX a whole bunch growing up. And
then I found out that Andy got to see NoFX in our hometown in a small venue back in like the heyday, like when I would have loved to have seen him.
mid-90s. So I was the first person in the door for that show, and Fat Mike from NoFX himself handed me while he was eating an entire veggie tray in the lobby, handed me the very, very first Fat Music for Fat People compilation, the for Fat Records.
Awesome.
And I was like, "Can I get your autograph?" And he was like, "No," and then shooed me off inside.
That's awesome.
But hey, that was also like 16-year-old me being like, "You guys are so cool."
Right. Oh my God. But see, that's the great thing about being a kid and discovering music. It means everything to you. You want to find out every little iota that you can about every lyric. Wait, what's he saying? What's he saying? And
you can apply way more meaning to the songs than the actual songwriters ever thought possible.
Oh yeah, yeah. 'Cause I mean, you like
absolutely.
Like every person will interpret like a poem or a song like slightly differently and be like, "I always thought this song was about this. No, it's about this. I think you're wrong. Maybe we're both right."
Right.
But then now you can start interacting with a lot of these people that you grew up listening to, like on Twitter and stuff like that, and like you can get your answers like way easier rather than just like trying to think about it for like the rest of your life.
But do you always want the answers? Because I got to tell you, the weirdest thing in the whole course of doing these articles on you guys, the kind of like quirkiest thing was talking to Patrick. Because he's like a little mythical animal. Like
That's the best description of Patrick I've ever heard.
He's so adorable. But some of the things, like, here's an example. Miri, everybody loves that song, right?
Oh, yeah.
But that line near the end where it says, Miri is 300 years older than you and 298 years older than me. Mm-hmm. There was something about it where it just got me every time. I always laughed. And I always just thought, okay, now that's so specific and so interesting. There's got to be some crazy story about what that's referencing. And I mean, it's the kind of thing where it got to the point where every time I heard Miri, and I thought about that, like, what does it mean? So, when I was interviewing Patrick, the whole time that we're talking about other stuff, I'm just really waiting and asking this question. And it was like 20 minutes into the interview. I'm like, okay, so Miri, what is the deal with 298? And seriously, he was like, oh, yeah, I don't really remember. I don't know.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, wait, you're kidding. That is such a like trippy line. There must have been a reason. He was like, I think it maybe had something to do with the fact that Dr. McCoy was maybe a little bit older. And he just kind of trailed off.
Oh,
and
wow.
On to some other stuff. And I was like, wow, like that's amazing.
That's a classic Patrick move for you right there.
That sounds exactly like Patrick.
I don't know. It was from like 9 years ago. I don't know.
Just threw me for a loop. But it was super, like, I actually ended up loving that answer about it more than I would have if he'd been like, well, I mean, Dr. McCoy was technically 2.5 years older, so, or whatever,
Man, yeah, that's a pretty classic Patrick answer.
Yeah.
Mike, one thing I didn't get to include in the story, I don't think, that he told me a story of that you guys, long before 5 Year Mission, had actually talked about like a Buffy fan band.
Yeah, basically it would have been this band, only we would be doing episodes of Buffy.
So basically the exact same idea, but just switch Star Trek to Buffy.
Yeah.
Right. Are you glad you ended up with Star Trek?
I know I am.
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, I love Buffy, and I would be more than happy to do a band recording songs about Buffy. But I think Star Trek provides. I mean, first of all, I mean Buffy is 7 seasons, and that's just one of the Star Trek series.
Yeah.
There's a lot more material in Star Trek, so we wouldn't run out as quickly.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And plus, there's a lot more Star Trek conventions than there are Buffy conventions.
Yeah. For now.
That is true.
For now.
For now, he said with a sinister tone.
How many Firefly conventions do you see?
Let's wait till Sarah Michelle Gellar falls a little bit further.
She needs that cash grab.
Yeah. And then we'll see if she'll agree to do BuffyCon.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, I was listening to the band a lot. Like Frank and I were, kind of listening to one, we had sort of a playlist of songs that we would do. And after a while, I just thought, God, these are so good. Like, Star Trek fans, if they don't already know this band, really should. And, my newspaper is like fairly Santa Cruz, Northern California specific.
Yeah.
So unless you guys played over here, which, clearly you don't come out to California much, I didn't really have an excuse to write it for the paper, but I did reach out because I thought there's got to be something that I can write about them for. And Chris answered my email with a big old long email, and he was great.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds like Chris.
He was just, yeah, exactly. We were just both like nerding out on stuff. And he was like, oh, that's awesome. About Frankie and stuff. And I said, well, if something comes up that I can find to write, we can find a platform to write about you guys, I'd really love to. And he was like, oh yeah, we'd be totally into it. So then I just, StarTrek.com, it'd be fun to write for them. So I just sent her a pitch and said, hey, I don't know if you've heard of this band. And I think what might have sold her on the idea was that I specifically said like that all the songs were basically like mini Star Trek novels, which is kind of how I describe them to people.
Yeah.
That's why people like the whole expanded universe Star Trek novels, because they find out, oh, what was this other character thinking? And I felt like so many of the 5-Year Mission songs do that and kind of create their own little universe. She said, I pitched one story. She said, no, do two. Like, do a Q&A with the band and then do something where you tell everybody what the best songs are. And that was a whole can of worms.
Oh, yeah, I'm
out,
sure.
Like, good Lord. Like, just once especially when you're really listening to a band a lot, to figure out 5 or 10 songs is nuts. But what I did, because I was really torn, if I do Miri and I do Shore Leave and I even maybe Cat's Paw, something like that, are they too obvious? Like, will fans who know the band already say like, oh, well, of course you picked those. Like, everybody knows those.
Where's the deep cuts?
So I just was kind of torn.
Why didn't you pick iMorgue?
Exactly. Why didn't I pick? Somebody out there thought that though.
Oh, exactly.
Somebody out there literally read this and was like, okay, I came here for iMorgue. I'm disappointed. Thumbs down.
You didn't even mention Givers of Pain and Delight.
Nobody mentions the Givers of Pain and Delight.
I didn't, but if it had been a different list, I might have. Actually, if we have time tonight, I would love to do. I did have a separate list, which was like 5-Year Mission deep cuts.
Oh,
like once you've heard the kind of like grabbiest ones. So what did people in the band think about that list when they finally saw it?
I was fine with it, except it lacked a lot of me.
But you're on all the songs, Andy.
I know I'm on all the songs, but
I gotta say Spock's Brain was a contender, I gotta say.
Yeah, it's usually one that we actually get requested fairly often. It's definitely a little more like one of the more like upbeat numbers that we have.
Yeah,
and it's pretty different from all the other stuff. So it's kind of a nice little thing to toss in towards the middle of the set, or like 3 songs towards the end of the set, somewhere around there, just to be like, all right, here's a little caffeine in your system.
That way we're not scaring them off early in the set.
Well, no, to be fair, we actually have opened up the set with the Givers of Pain and Delight a few times.
Yes, we've done that.
Really?
Yep.
That's amazing. Well, I am a huge Cramps fan, so Gotta Save Spock's Brain kind of like it was very Lux Interior to me.
Yeah. What's funny is that I actually got to see the band that I ripped that song off of, Oblivions. I got to see them just a couple weeks ago in Memphis.
Do they know that you ripped off the song?
No. They are too intimidating and too influential on me to go up and be like, hey, I ripped off one of your songs, sir. I'm in a Star Trek band.
Can I get your autograph?
No.
Can you put down a veggie plate for a second?
Mike, what did you think of the list?
I thought it was good. I was going through it and thought they were good choices. Good songs for like introducing people to the band.
Right.
I think all of the guys thought that the list was a good choice.
I didn't hear any complaints from any of the
Yeah.
band members, so it's not like, oh, it was so Rittenhouse heavy, it was so Chris heavy. It's so
I think
Noah
it could
heavy.
have been more Rittenhouse heavy.
You think everything should be more Rittenhouse heavy.
Should I tell you guys the list of the truly deep cuts?
The deep cuts.
Oh
yes.
yeah, absolutely. Let's hear them.
Okay. And some of these songs I actually like maybe even a little bit more than the songs that were on the list that was published, but that just might be also because I've heard those songs the most. You know,
Right.
Of course, especially with Frankie and I listened to them, like, of course we can't go that long without listening to, like, you know, Cat's Paw. Like, I don't know, there's something about Cat's Paw where it's like, that's just very signature 5-year mission. But
You
but these are ones
should
that,
see the smile on Mike's face right now as you're saying this.
I don't know if you saw it, Mike, but there was a terrible article on IO9 about the 5 worst Halloween episodes of all time.
Mhm.
And they picked Cat's Paw as one of them. And now I don't know if I only like Cat's Paw more because of the song, or if I was like, when I was a kid, I would have defended it. I can't remember if I liked it when Cat's Paw came on.
It's definitely because of the song.
Probably
See,
is,
that's
yeah.
that's the funny thing about this band is that, like, we can take a crap episode. Okay, I don't want to say a crap episode.
Less than stellar.
A less than
episode.
stellar episode.
No, you can say crap.
A
Yeah.
less than stellar episode of the original series, and we can make it into a good song, and then people will go back and watch that episode because of the song and kind of gain a new appreciation. Like, especially in the case of, like, Spock's Brain.
Oh yeah.
We did an entire album
Yeah.
about one of the, I guess it was voted one of the worst episodes of the original
Yeah,
series.
I mean it's typically considered the worst, even though it's really not.
Oh, it's definitely not. But
Yeah.
but a lot of people said that they went back because of our album and all the songs that we wrote about Spock's Brain, and they said they have a new appreciation for the episode Spock's Brain.
Well, I mean, and it's pretty funny because, you know, Frankie only wanted to watch Spock's Brain because of the song. Like, when I explained the plot to her, she had no interest. And then, you know, she's just like, that sounds
Understandable.
dumb.
Very
Dumb. But then we, you know, listened to the EP and stuff, and she's like, okay, we got to watch this. And when it was over, the first thing she said was, you know, that actually isn't that bad. Like, it's true. It's not boring. There's
No, it's not.
plenty of
No.
TOS episodes that are actually boring.
Like the Alternative Factor.
Well, the alternative factor is okay.
That episode, it's so boring. They go to those weird
Yeah.
little acid trip cut shots.
And his goatee keeps changing.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the list. First one is absolutely Errand of Mercy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because first of all, the episode itself doesn't get nearly enough love. I mean, it's got like the freaking most powerful race of aliens in the whole show. Like that, you know, when they come in and sort of end this galactic war out of sheer mind power, it's like the ultimate Star Trek fantasy.
Mhm.
You know, when you're a kid, you're just like, I could stop war just being like, like war's
thinking
over.
it.
Like, yeah. Anyway, the episode's great, but the song is brilliant. And what I love about it is kind of how it shifts the points of view. Like the first part, it sort of captures like Kirk, and, you know, he's making these kind of like the dumbest, like pro-war arguments because he's like, I'm a soldier, not a diplomat. He thinks it's what he's supposed to do. And he actually ends up basically apologizing for that at the end of the episode.
Yeah, he says, I was just following orders.
Right. How could I have thought that? You know, how silly. But then, you know, then it gives like a verse to the Klingons, and, you know, they're not going to apologize for being pro-war, but
Of course not.
the song kind of gives them their say. And then the Organians just come in at the end, and the song, it's just like the episode. They're just like, you're ridiculous. Your arguments are stupid. We're going to save you despite yourselves. So anyway, that's great song. Second one, Bread and Circuses.
All right. I'll definitely agree with that.
You know, it's a low key. I think a lot of these songs are kind of more low key than the other ones. And the song has to kind of grow on you. But I love that it picks the Brothers of the Sun, who are just sort of like these meek characters,
Yeah.
you know, that turn out to, you know, they're going to have the power to change this empire. And, you know, it takes those characters and kind of shows why they're badasses.
Yeah, well, and plus it's a great argument for the time, like especially like in the 60s. I mean, they were like tackling religious freedom in the 60s.
Yeah.
So again, yet another example of Star Trek being ahead of its time and discussing the hard issues, whether it's super heavy-handed, like what was it? May This Be Your Last Battlefield?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, with the black and white and yeah.
You're different from
little
us.
much, but
you're different from us. Let's war.
You're half different than us.
Yeah, right. We're better than you.
Right.
We're exactly the same, except just the opposite.
And then I love that the line at the end of Bread and Circuses, we're not impressed. Like, to me, that's just the message of the episode in one line, sort of said in the coolest way possible.
And that's Noah for you.
Love that. So third one, is there in truth no beauty?
Yeah.
Which is just, like a Chris love song, but basically the ugliest creature in the galaxy gets a love song. That's pretty awesome.
I keep on saying that I'm waiting for the day that somebody plays that as like the first dance at their wedding, or we see like a proposal video with that song in the background.
And they're like, but wait, have you seen this episode? They're hideous.
Yeah, exactly.
But see, I think, Mike, you talked to me for the article about how originally you thought, well, maybe we won't even have these songs be obviously about Star Trek at all. Like, maybe we won't even say it.
Yeah.
And then some people will just pick up on it. To me, this song is like that. It's almost like it's just a normal love song. And then there's little lines like, was I just another assignment for you? And you're like, what assignment? Like, then you get that it's from something, referencing something, but it doesn't have to be Star Trek necessarily. Also, I just think that both Chris and Mike, a lot of the language in their songs, like a lot of the wording, is just sort of very like direct. I don't want to say simple, but but no, really, I mean, it is like Star Trek can get a little flowery. It can get a little full of itself. It's got the Shakespearean titles all the time. And everyone's like, but sometimes the 5-Year Mission songs sort of take that and kind of cut through it to just be very directly about some important message or some emotion. And so I think a lot of Chris's songs do that. This song particularly does it. I don't know if it gets as much play in people's minds as like Metamorphosis or Naked Time or something.
For a while there, we had been doing Beauty live a lot. I don't think it's been on the last couple set lists.
I think it got replaced by the City on the Edge of Forever
remix
fast version.
Yeah, but we're talking about possibly recording the fast version of it now. We just kind of redid kind of a Ramones style version of City on the Edge of Forever. So we'll be recording that here soon.
There's a thing we do at practices where we take our slow songs and just
mess around, make them fast.
We play them fast and more like upbeat rock songs, and
sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Either that or we'll do weird jazz versions of them.
Yeah,
that is awesome, like Jazz Odyssey.
Exactly.
We have a handful of them that we may be putting out at some point as new versions,
alternate versions.
That's so cool. So is the City on the Edge of Forever, does it have the same words and it's just faster?
Yeah. It's the same, really the same everything. The chord progression's the same. I think Patrick's guitar is probably slightly different.
Yeah, the leads, yeah.
But the bass line I play is actually the exact same bass line. I'm just playing it faster.
Oh, you guys have got to put that out. That's awesome.
Oh, we will. We definitely will.
It's also in 4/4 instead of 3/4.
Yes.
Oh, right. Not a waltz.
For the music nerds.
Right. Okay. So the next one is Ultimate Computer.
That's 2 Rittenhouse songs.
Oh, that is 2 Rittenhouse songs. Actually, I didn't even.
I'm keeping count.
He's actually throwing. He actually just threw up his fingers and goes, "That's 2," just silently off mic.
Well, but you were just talking about songs that were better than the episode. I mean, come on. This is probably the primary one in my mind.
Well, I mean, it's yet another episode where Kirk has to outsmart a computer. That's a very common theme in the original series, but there's 4 episodes 4 or 5
at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so like, I really like, who is it? William Marshall, who plays the scientist that made VM5. Like I like, he was Blackula. I mean, I love that guy, but they just made him so boring, and the whole episode so humorless. Like,
yeah, it was a pretty dry episode.
On.
Yeah.
A computer taking over from Kirk should have been like amazing, but it's just, let's install it. I don't know if we installed it right. Seems to be some problems. Let's go see if we can reinstall it. Like, oh my God.
There's still some bugs to work out in the processor.
Like an IT episode. Right.
Have you tried turning it on and off again?
That was an episode where Frankie was like, this is so boring. I'm never watching this again.
Exactly.
And I think she was shocked because we listen to the song all the time, and the song's so funny. I mean, and that's really the key of it is it's this little pop punk song about a computer with an ego problem, a God complex.
It's not wrong.
Such a funny idea. No, the line, now that I'm in control, I promise to be smart and not screw this up. And now I'm going to do what I'm told. Here's an example to start. Whoops, I blew it up.
I've always loved that line.
That is prime Star Trek, the original series songwriting right there.
And that's also prime Rittenhouse, because he will screw things up, and he's like, whoops, oh well.
It'll be fine.
Right.
It's fine.
He does sing it with conviction, so yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so then this other one, this could be controversial based on what Patrick told me, because he told me that you guys did not love his accent on By Any Other Name.
It was definitely an issue in the band.
Yeah, it was a point of contention. Didn't we actually have him in the studio do an alternate version where he didn't do the accent?
He recorded several different takes of it. His original take was really thick.
Very thick.
And I think the problem we were having was that it was taking away from the song. It was such a parody of the accent that it was
distracting.
Yeah, it was distracting you from the song itself, which is a good song. But but it's just, it's kind of like when you're watching a TV show and someone's doing like this weird accent and it's so off that it takes you out of the show and you can't really watch it anymore, Yeah,
you're just distracted by like how bad it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you do it live? And does he sing it with the accent live?
He does, but luckily, after we talked with him about it, he kind of softened up the accent, and we kind of came to like more of a happy medium.
Yeah, so he did the really thick one, and then he did one that was just kind of the accent, which is mostly what you hear on the album.
Yeah.
And then he did one that was really just straight. And we ended up going with the medium one because I feel like the song, I feel like it's good with a little bit of the accent, but he was just going really overboard with it, and it just became kind of an issue with us when we were trying to finalize the album.
Yeah,
we went back and forth on it for several days.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, because to me, it's like one of those songs where you're like, oh, this is kind of the best Pogues song that the Pogues didn't actually write.
The second I got his demo for that song, I immediately was like, dude, this is awesome. It's like the Pogues.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
I love it. It's funny as hell, and it's a great scene that it's based on too. I mean, that's maybe not a great episode, but the scene where Scotty gets the Kelvin guy drunk may be the best Scotty scene in the whole series.
Oh, yeah.
Other than Trouble with Tribbles bar scene might be the best one. But
yeah, that one's pretty good.
Number two. Yeah. So that one I think is kind of underappreciated, but I can see why you guys might have a problem with that. And the last one is Spectre of the Gun, which I'm torn on that episode. I never liked it when I was a kid.
It's a weird
I was like, why are they doing a Western on Star Trek,
Budget.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was it. That was like after they got their budget like completely slashed and they had to come up with an excuse as to why they were working on like unfinished sets.
Yes.
It's like an unrealized dream in here. It's not quite complete. It's like, nah, right. You guys lost a lot of your budget. So you got to come up and be creative.
But if you let all that go, if you just don't worry about how half-assed the set is or how weird the idea they're going to do gunfight at the OK Corral on Star Trek is, if you let it all go, it's kind of a cool episode. And the song, to me, there's some 5-Year Mission songs that can sort of be like a key to understanding the episode a little better, maybe going a little bit deeper with the episode or enjoying it more. And it's really like a fun song. It makes me, the first time I watched the episode after I heard the song, I just had more fun, just sort of like, let's rewrite history, the silly pun about it's okay. Like there's just something about it that really makes you be like, okay, you know what? When all said and done, this is actually like pretty enjoyable.
You want to know what's hilarious? Literally,
what?
I was today years old when I just put 2 and 2 together. With the okay "it's okay" crowd, line.
It's okay.
What?
Wow.
That is hilarious. You got to tell Noah that.
I really need to start paying attention more.
You will need to tell him that because he doesn't listen to these.
No, Noah does not listen to the podcast. He doesn't care.
He only cares if he's on it.
That's true.
So there was a question that I didn't get to ask because I knew I wasn't going to have room, so I just didn't even bother. And I took enough of your guys' time when I was interviewing in the first place. But now, after I've heard a couple of the podcast episodes, I'm curious because you guys have sort of talked around this. I really wonder what your favorite 5-Year Mission album is and kind of what the general consensus in the band is about which one is best.
That's a hard question to answer.
Very hard.
I think we all have different opinions, really.
Yeah, overall album, I would say Spock's Brain is probably my favorite just because it's all about one episode. We all had very different takes, but it's also hilarious that all of us decided to focus in on the brain. What is brain? And also just shouting the word Spock's Brain.
You work with what you're given.
That's true. But yeah, overall, I mean, like stylistically, songwriting wise, I think that's probably my favorite album. Like, obviously, we put a lot of work into year 4, and that album is fantastic. But I would say overall, I think Spock's Brain is probably my favorite.
For me, it's probably a tie between year 1 and year 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Year 1.
Yeah,
Classic,
that's so interesting.
Year 1 just has a special place. Like,
no, shut up.
No, I'm not kidding. Like,
got a special place in my heart.
I think there was just a magic that we shut up.
I just love that you're trying to be sincere with an answer, and I'm just over here laughing at you.
This is classic Fark and Rittenhouse right here.
That's true.
Anyway, I think that there was like a special magic that we captured with the first album. It's like your first, like there's something special about it, even though it's probably our simplest album
and most haphazardly put together towards the end.
Yeah, as far as writing and record, no, they're all like that.
No, I mean we were practicing songs for the first time right before recording them with that album.
I know. The Conscience of the King.
We practiced
Menagerie 2.
an hour before I laid the initial drums down for it. Just me and Noah.
Yeah, actually. That's the reason why I had to record the last 30 seconds of drums.
Oh yeah, because there was a part that we forgot to add in. Yeah.
Anyway,
Conscious of the King.
Yeah. So yeah, a little inside baseball on that one. That's Mike playing drums. Well,
that's funny.
Sort of for the last 30 seconds.
From I never wanted this blood on your hands, like that.
Yeah, the most simplistic hits.
Yeah, that too through the end with the cymbal swells.
Cymbal swell.
That's all me.
Like Andy was just like, I'm outie. He's like, I've had it with this.
No, we actually that was literally because we'd rehearsed it right before we recorded it. We forgot to put that part at the very end. So Mike had to go back through and post and add that in.
That's funny. Well, Mike, it's funny that year 3 is your other one because that has become my favorite, by far now.
Yeah, I mean, year 3, it's got Mirror. It's got Cat's Paw.
Well, and some of those songs, after I did the list, I swear to God, the next day, Patrick had said something when I interviewed him. He was like, "Oh, I think I Mud is my favorite song that I wrote." And I kind of was thinking maybe Frankie would like I Mud. So I was thinking, hey, let's listen to that song again. And I don't know what it was, but that just kicked off this thing where we listened to it like a ton of times in a row. And then we kind of just started listening to year 3, like all the way through. And the songs just sort of lead right into each other. I think like The Changeling is kind of underrated. Like that's a great kind of opener.
Yeah, that does make a great opener.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great opener.
The Apple.
Oh yeah.
Wolf in the
Again,
Fold.
not a great episode.
Wolf in the
great
Fold is
song.
on year 3.
I didn't get to put in the not only Wolf in the Fold, but the great Spock's Brain incident that I asked all of you about. But then I didn't have room to put it in the Q&A. You guys could probably do a whole podcast episode just on that.
On
On Spock's Brain from year 4.
Oh, Mike's Spock's Brain.
Yeah.
The only song that's actually titled Spock's Brain.
That's true. Even all the songs actually on the album Spock's Brain.
I had so many good quotes from you guys about, and I really wanted to use that sort of, I wanted to do a whole kind of piece of the Q&A that was just like how the Spock's Brain thing played out. One, because it was funny.
Yeah.
And everybody was very funny in sort of recounting the arguments that you had over it or disagreements or whatever, but also because I think it just sort of showed how generous you are with each other as a band, because the minute that here's Mike, like, you know, Chris had like basically said, your song sucks. And, you know, and kind of tried to completely talk him out of having it on the record.
He tried.
And when,
he tried.
And right. But when Mike, when I was asking you about it, the first thing that you went to when you were answering was, well, look, like Chris is kind of the conscience of the band. Like he's sort of the person who says like, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we shouldn't do this. Like you just went straight to like giving him credit for something instead of just like trashing him or like making fun of something, you know, which you guys did plenty of. But, and he did this, and he did the same. Like when he talked about it, he was like, yeah, I wasn't that into it, but he was just he was like, hey, you know, in the end, like if they love it, like I'm going to go with it. Like I'm here for the band. I just thought like, wow, it's even interesting. The first time I looked at your guys' Wikipedia page, and, you know, a lot of times when you look at some band's Wikipedia page, it'll say members, and then have like 4 people, past members, and there's 20 people.
Right.
And you can just be like, yeah, those guys suck. Like you do not want to be in a band with those guys. And when you look at the members on it's just like, you guys have all been in this from the beginning, all hung together, even if there were disagreements and stuff like that. And I just wanted to have that in there to show how well you guys worked together when like things didn't go perfect, but I didn't have room. And it just, out of all the things, I was like, nah, I got to cut that one. And it's too bad. I mean, it's kind of, I just thought it was maybe, so on some episode, you guys have got to talk where both Chris and Mike and Noah, Andy, you were totally funny talking about it. You're like, yeah, I don't know. They were like, there was some kind of like, let's vote for like who wins over this song or something. Like you were just kind of like had a hazy recollection or something.
Oh no, I still remember when Mike and Noah actually wrote that Spock's Brain song, and it was in the weirdest place. We were at a convention that we go to every year called Concave. Noah and Mike are like whispering about something. They were like, "Oh hey, we'll be back in a while." And I was like, where are you guys going? Oh, we're going to go work on Spock's Brain. Can I come and help you guys out? No, it's a secret. You'll hear it when it's time to record it. I was like, what? And what's really hilarious is that I recorded the drums for the backing track of that song without actually hearing the song first.
Yep.
It was just like, all right, do a drum beat kind of like this. All right, let's try a drum beat kind of like this. Just kind of go up at this part. Make it a little more dynamic. I'm like, okay. And then I literally did not hear one single note of that song until we started sending out in like original mixes, like to critique. And so that was.
Way.
And even then, it didn't have the dialogue yet.
No,
I was just sending out the instrumental to get the mix down, and I finally sent them the mix with the dialogue towards the end.
Oh my God. It was.
You guys, so you and Noah definitely knew it was going to be like controversial.
We had talked about it for a long time. We'd been planning it, and at Concave we decided.
Planning it.
Yeah, we brought. Well, no, we had ideas, you know.
Oh, I know.
At Concave we brought some recording equipment and decided to just lock ourselves in a room for an hour or two and just experiment with it. And we didn't really get anything there that we could save, but we definitely got ideas
fleshed out
for the final. And then, one night we just came into Hero House, pointed a mic at each of us, hit record, and just talked about Spock's brain for like 2 hours.
And just kept like the best bits, basically.
We kept like repeating things, and like we would laugh so much that we had to start over each conversation like 10 times.
Which is hilarious at the very end of the song, because you can hear Noah laughing at his own line. How long does this turbo lift take?
Yeah, that was the best one. He did like
so
20 of those, and that was the only one that he didn't laugh through the entire thing.
and still one of my new favorite running jokes. I haven't really done it on the podcast at all. But the way in that song that like anytime anybody uses the measurement 2 years, I say it exactly how Mike says it in the song. 2 years.
2 years.
It's like almost a weird, slight Canadian accent behind it. That was like 2 years ago.
The funny thing about that song is I hear myself saying words from that song all the time, and or like phrases from it, because that truly is just Noah and I talking in our normal dialogue, like the way we say things. And so I'll hear myself say something that sounds exactly like a line from the song, and then I'll just laugh for no reason. And the people I'm talking to are like, why are you laughing?
What is wrong with you? Yeah. And what's funny is that I know you recorded a lot and then picked the best things, but that's one of those songs where, I mean, there was like a couple of weeks where Frankie and I would just listen to it over and we jump in the car. Be like, should we listen to 5 Year Mission? Yeah. What do we listen to? Oh, Spock's Brain. And so when I was interviewing Chris, because then I was like, hey, no, I think it's super funny. And he's like, I didn't think it was that funny. And he's like, I mean, I just didn't feel like it had like the re-listenability that a lot of other songs have. And I completely get what he was talking about in terms of like, you do want your songs, people just be able to like play them over and over. And sometimes when something's like maybe really talky, people won't want to do that. But it's just so funny that I was just thinking, we've listened to this song like 70 times.
Oh my gosh.
It's super re-listenable.
When year 4 came out, obviously we were a little nervous about that song and how it would be received, especially Chris. Chris was all the way up until the day that the album came out. He was trying to talk me out of it. And
we were about to send it off to press. Is that really the Spock's Brain we want to put on the album?
And the really funny thing is, for the next couple of weeks after the album came out and people started listening to it, that was the song that people talked about the most, and like in a good way too. Like, so it was, I felt justified.
Yeah. I have to say, one of the things that I really love that you guys did more early on, but you did a lot more videos for like the songs on the first like maybe like year 1,
like the episode videos.
Yeah, the episode videos, or even just the ones where you like that you did like Arena,
like
or Galileo 7, where you
videos.
acted something out.
Action.
But I just thought, oh my God, that one should get a video, because there's I don't know if
I thought about doing an animated video for it.
Oh, yeah, like you did, like the animation style from the video podcast. Yeah. That would be brilliant. Because some of the, sometimes Frankie, like, she'll be like, oh, this song's great. We got to watch the video, like meaning the episode video. And then we'll look it up and it'll be like, oh, that doesn't have one. And we'll just be like, bummer.
Yeah, we got lazy towards the end of year 3 and we haven't done any since.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like none from year 4, right?
None.
Right.
No.
The only video from year 4 is Ultimate Computer, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the live one where you're actually recording it, or recreating
or
something.
We were, those are real That's real
from the
footage
studio,
of us
yeah.
recording it.
Because Mike
Okay.
had that idea for that video of like when we started recording the album. So
The only one that's not real is Patrick, because I forgot to set the camera up when he came to record it, and I realized it after he went home. And
so then he came in wearing star sunglasses with a guitar.
So yeah,
The guitar, right?
He was very, very kind to make another trip down here and pretend to be recording it.
But that was a great idea with the little like 9 squares and everything. It was very cool. But like Omega Glory should really have an episode video. It would just be, it would be so funny because that episode's so ridiculous. You actually have to be watching it to remember how ridiculous it is.
Especially like the last like 4 minutes.
It's a decent episode until the last few minutes.
Yeah, exactly. We've actually always said that about that episode. It's like, no, that's a great episode. Well, the last few minutes are pretty awful, but
right. Well, Chris was saying when I talked to him, he was like, yeah, maybe if I wanted to be like super authentic, I could have done 3/4 of a great song. And then the last like 30 seconds suck, you know?
just be a bunch of noise.
That would have been awesome.
Just a bunch of noise.
No, that's a great idea.
We actually love to do little subtle things like that, like in Tomorrow's Yesterday with like the rewind sound effect.
Thing. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like I love slipping in little like subtle things like that. I think having the last few seconds of Omega Glory suck would have been awesome. We should have done that.
Yeah. Tomorrow's Yesterday is another one of those like Shore Leave where that just kind of sealed it for me. Because it took me, a couple of listens to sort of figure out that was what was going on. Because I hadn't seen the episode in a long time, and so I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, don't they go back in time?" And then I watched it again, and the minute that I watched the episode, I was thinking about the song the whole time. And then when he's back in his cockpit, I was like, "Oh, that's awesome! Like such a great device in the song."
Yeah.
Do you guys do that one live?
Oh yeah, quite a bit actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not as much lately, but it used to be regular on our set list every show.
Yeah, what was nice is that we did that song at the Children's Museum for the opening of the Star Trek Exploring New Worlds exhibit that we're a part of. And then
they used it.
Yeah. They made a video. They took like live clips of us playing the opening, and then shots of us like running around the exhibit.
Around the museum. Okay, I've seen that.
Yeah. So I thought that was a pretty awesome thing for them to do, and it's like, hey, we got another video out of the deal. So
yeah.
Right. Now there's a weird part in that video where you guys are looking at, were you actually part of the exhibit? Because it said something like how we became a band or something.
Yeah.
Like you're listening to it.
Yeah. When we played Star Trek Las Vegas, Chris and Noah and I sat in a side room, and we were initially told it was just for like a kind of an NPR-esque kind of story. And then it turned out that the guy was from the Museum of Pop Culture. And so we did the interview, and it was the fun fact about that one is that during the interview, Joan Collins accidentally walked into the room and then backed right back out. So yeah, that was a fun one. But then there's like also a photo of us in the exhibit itself. But yeah, we were part of that. And we actually, what was funny is that when it was in Detroit, I actually stood next to our photo for a few minutes because we played up there as well. I just stood next to the photo, and people would walk past me like, recognize that guy? That's me. Yep. I'm in a museum looking at myself in a museum. This is so meta.
It's so meta, man.
So Chris has now joined us.
Hello, Chris.
Hello.
So Chris, you weren't here when I asked him about this before, because I was talking about sort of the list that I did of the best 5-year mission songs. What did you think of the final list?
Everybody has their own list of the songs that they like, but I thought it was pretty good. As far as I'm concerned, when you were asking what our favorite songs were and that kind of thing, it's really hard to answer. And so I look at it as this is kind of what you view as your best, and I think it's really cool. But I mean, it was nice to see a couple of my songs in there, so that was good.
Yeah, I clearly did a little thing where, like when I liked the same things about someone's song, I tried to like sneak them in like group them together, because it would seem like if I did a second entry on it, it'd be like, well, I like this for the same reason I like the other one.
You did a top 10 like a person that has a really hard time doing their top 10. Which is
so true. And if I'd done it on a different day, it probably would have been like 7 of them would have been different or something. Yeah, and after we did the interview, because you had mentioned Omega Glory, and Frankie and I had just started listening to that. We were listening to Year 4, and that ended up being one where we listened to that a ton. Like, I just think it's hilarious that, like, Welcome to Omega. It's so goofy, like, just exactly the way the episode is.
Well, I think I may have mentioned it to you. The character, what's his name? The captain that's stranded there. Can't think of his name.
Yeah, I can't either.
Captain Tracy.
Captain Tracy.
Yeah.
Right.
He's so clearly full of it. I wanted that to be his voice, like just over the top, really just wanting to sell this whole idea of, yeah, you're here. We're so happy you're here.
Right. Yeah, then over the course of the song, you figure out more about like, it just gets a little more sinister a little bit at a time. Like, oh, and you're not leaving. Oh, the disease won't let you leave. Like, sorry, it had to be you. I really like you.
Yeah, this kind of, glad handing was kind of the whole idea behind that song, where it's like, oh, yeah, we're great you're here, but, sorry, you can't leave.
Which the music really matches, because it's kind of this big, like, showy, like, sort of arena rock, like, hey, I'm putting on a show over here.
Yeah, it's one of my most fun songs for me to play. It's fun because you can kind of rock out to it.
Do you guys play that one a lot live?
Yeah, we've been playing that one since like a year before. Was it 2 years before?
We played it for about 2 years before we made the album.
Yeah, we started playing it in 2016 when we played the 50th anniversary in Vegas.
Yeah, we were playing it then.
Yeah, that's right. Because we had no idea how long it was going to take us to get Year 4 done. That was the first song that I had written for the album, and it just lent itself so well to being played live that we just started playing it right away, and it just was one of our staples for a long time. And I still really like playing it. It's kind of like the Naked Time. We played the Naked Time so much.
Yes, we did.
From the beginning, and we don't really play it that much anymore. And I think Omega Glory has kind of taken the place of Naked Time as one that we play quite a bit.
Yeah.
On the What Are Little Songs Made Of podcast, you guys were talking about doing the really dramatic opening for the Galileo 7 and how it didn't work out at all. And you were saying like, oh, we got to do that again. Yeah. And then I think, Andy, you were like, no, let's not do that. But it kind of made me curious. Like, do you switch up songs a lot, or is like once something gets in the set list, does it tend to stay for like a few years?
It really depends on like how many shows we have back to back to back. Like if we have like 2 or 3 shows within a month and they're in fairly separate locations, like not even in the same city, we'll tend to stick with like the same like 16 song set, but we'll dust off some chestnuts every now and then that we haven't played for a while. We were actually just talking about trying to bring Metamorphosis back into the mix.
Oh, nice.
We haven't done that one live for a while now.
Yeah, I'm definitely the one who always wants to rearrange the set list, because not only do I don't want the band to get bored, but I especially don't want the audience to get bored. And when you open every single show with the cage and for the war, or for his head is hollow and I have touched Spock's brain for like 2 years straight.
2 years.
2 years. You know that not only are you bored with opening the show that way, but the fans are they're expecting it. They know that that's what you're gonna play, and I don't want to get to that point where they know what we're gonna do. That's why I just say at one of our most recent shows, we put Shore Leave on the set list as a surprise because everyone's always asking for it, but we didn't actually write it on the list so that when people were peeking at it, they didn't know we were going to play it.
Right.
Oh, nice.
Which I'm always a fan of. Like, if there is a surprise in there, just make it like an asterisk. You will know what the asterisk means, but they won't.
Right. Like a real surprise.
Yeah.
So you missed our like 20-minute discussion about the song Spock's Brain.
Yep.
Which version?
From Year 4.
Oh, Spock's brain. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling them that was one of the only parts that I had to leave off of the Q&A because I just didn't have room. But I was kind of bummed because I felt like that besides the just sort of being a funny story about behind the scenes, it also just kind of showed like how well you guys treat each other and how much you really respect each other. And just that you, Chris, both you and Mike, when you were just about to go into like how much of a drag this this problem had been, you just like just really said something like really nice about each other. And I just thought like, oh, like that's why there's still a band. Like these guys, you know, it's hard to keep a band together, and these guys have stuck together, and clearly like there's just a lot of mutual respect all the way around, which, you know, would have been kind of the cool little thing about that story. But, you know, it was way too long already.
Well, I think we have the benefit of having known each other for a long time prior to being in the band together. So, I mean, with the exception of Andy, sorry, Andy.
You're welcome.
We all knew each other. And so, you know, you kind of go into it with a certain amount of just respect as far as being friends.
So, Chris, another question that Steve asked us earlier was, what is our favorite 5-Year Mission album?
I go back and forth on that one. I think probably 2 or 3 for different reasons. You know, I like to listen to an album. I don't like to listen to an album that has a couple songs that I like and then, you know, I'll skip all the rest. I like to try to, I think we make an effort to make them listenable all the way through and enjoyable all the way through.
All killer, no filler.
Right. So, which, I mean, admittedly, with 4 different people writing each album, it's a little bit easier because each one of us, we're only responsible for 4 songs, and it's a lot easier to write 4 songs than it is to write 16 good songs. I have a lot of love for 2 because I think we pulled that album together in about a year.
Yeah.
And the leap from year 1 to year 2, as far as quality,
We peaked on Shore Leave.
yeah, right. I think it's just a huge leap there. And then, you know, 3, we just kind of really refined it. And I think I might have to go with 3 in general.
So Chris, does that make 4 your least favorite because you have to skip both By Any Other Name and Spock's Brain?
No.
Gotcha.
I don't skip By Any Other Name usually. I think I've grown accustomed to it.
Well, I think what's kind of funny though, Chris, is he sort of did a little bit of what you did on Naked Time, where he focused in on one scene that's really good in the episode. And I was telling them, I think that scene where Scotty gets the Kelvin drunk is probably my favorite Scotty scene in the whole series, except for maybe the Tribble bar scene.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of, you know, I like that in both Naked Time and By Any Other Name. It's almost like you get to kind of relive that scene a little bit. So, but I do think the production, you can see the refinement of the production all the way up through year 4. And I wrote about this a little bit in the list, but, you know, I don't think there's any way you guys could have done, you know, something like Immunity Syndrome in year 1. It's just like such a sonically beautiful song.
You know, I don't think it would have occurred to us to do it in year 1. It was just kind of the beginning, and we weren't thinking so much about structure of songs and building them. We were just thinking, okay, let's write songs, and then everybody else will fall in with some instruments. I mean, it wasn't really much more than that. And then year 2 is when we started really dissecting as we built them.
We got a little more experimental.
Yeah. Which is why I love year 2, because that's when we kind of took the training wheels off, you know?
I feel like the same way. I think year 3, you took a lot of the things that you had maybe started to figure out in year 2 and kind of blew them up to this more kind of epic level. Like Chris, before you got here, we were talking about The Changeling, and I think that's like my favorite opener of an album.
Yeah.
Cause but it's so dense. Like a lot of the songs are just very sort of, you get to something like I Mud, And it's, listening to Patrick explain how he put together the song and how it was originally 2 songs and then he sort of integrated them together. The result is just this like epic song about like a very silly episode, which is just a great contrast. And I think a lot of those songs on year 3, they're just like fully fleshed out ideas, kind of taken to the nth degree. But as I was doing the article and listening to the band, I kind of ended up organizing like my questions for you and how I sort of wanted the Q&A to go based on things I noticed about your styles of songwriting. I don't know if we really got to talk about whether you actually agreed with those assessments. So I'll just say quickly, like person by person, what I sort of organized them around. But like Mike, he's really written a lot, I think, of the band's anthems, and he has that kind of like punkier style sometimes, a lot of unusual points of view for the lyrics. Chris has written a lot of the band's like most emotional songs, and we've talked about that. And also, but what we didn't talk about is also experimented with a lot of musical styles kind of early on, like sort of like Squire Agathos really comes to mind, where, that was still kind of an early song for you guys, but it was a song where it was like, hey, this is the style of the episode. Maybe we can like branch out a little musically here. And I thought that really worked. And eventually everybody has kind of done that, I think. Noah, I think, has some of the more sonically out there songs, like spacier songs. And the lyrics are a lot of times more impressionistic. And then Patrick, I can't totally figure out. He's got some of the wackiest songs, but he also has some, really kind of thematically deep songs, like Who Mourns for Adonis. Like that song to me is like really captures what that episode is about in a very, very clear way. And I don't know, he can do that too. So he was a little bit more of a mystery to me, but other than that, sort of, what do you guys think of those characterizations?
They seem pretty accurate.
I think that's fair.
What about me, Steve?
I would agree with that.
I know. And you can hold a beat like no one's business.
Perfect.
Andy writes our punkiest songs.
That's true.
Our punk rock tunes.
Punkiest. Yes, all the songs that I write are all influenced by the show Punky Brewster.
Punky.
I think, knowing us individually and knowing the kind of music we produce, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's cool.
One last thing I want to ask you, Steve. I like to try and ask all of our guests this: is what is aside from 5-Year Mission, because obviously we're the number one choice, but what is one of your favorite things musically? An artist, a band, a song, an album, a composer. Just what's something that you love that you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, that is so hard.
Exactly.
Because I write a lot of music stories.
Doesn't have to be your favorite. It can just be something that you like a lot.
Okay, this is a really weird one. This was my favorite band in high school. First rock show I ever went to, drove like 200 miles to go see them. They're super obscure in a way, but not totally. It's Oingo Boingo.
Oh, the Mystic Knights of Oingo Boingo.
Awesome. Oingo Boingo, everybody knows Danny Elfman for his film work.
Yeah.
But I, really, in high school, it was just like every day it was some Oingo Boingo record.
Wow.
And then what's really strange is that like 3 or 4 years after Oingo Boingo broke up, the whole ska revival came along.
Yep.
And they never really got credit for it.
Oh no.
But I think they had a lot to do with it. So they recently kind of, without Danny Elfman, who is never going to play rock music again because he damaged his hearing pretty bad, apparently. The other members have sort of come back together and are playing together. So they played around here. So I interviewed the guitarist Steve Bartek and the drummer Johnny Vatos
nice.
Hernandez.
Yeah.
Who I Andy, I don't know if you have followed his drumming at all, but he was always a favorite of mine.
No,
rock drummer.
Yeah, I never really followed them after their breakup. I mean, I was a big fan of their albums. I was a fan of them dressed up as devils in the movie the Forbidden Zone.
Forbidden Zone?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Written by, directed by, and starring pretty much the entire Elfman family. And also, Hervé Vallech's tattoo from Fantasy Island. It's
my God, I know.
Weird one.
It's so weird. And Danny Elfman as the devil is like the role he was born to play.
It's perfect.
Besides Jack Skellington, which,
Yeah.
But yeah, so Oingo Boingo. And so I got to talk to them, and sort of, it's really weird when you're sort of talking to people that music you listen to every day, like 30 years ago.
Right.
But it just really reminded me like how influential that music was. I mean, they were telling me that some of the bands that have told them like, oh, we'd never make music without you, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, like No Doubt really wanted Steve Bartek to produce their second album. The label said no. But, I mean, these are, there's some bands that maybe they don't kind of ever break into the mainstream, but they're just the sort of like creative sort of primitive lava that ends up giving birth to a lot of stuff.
So Steve, when you interviewed Oingo Boingo, did your voice crack when you asked for the interview, or did they just tell you to get away so they could eat their veggies?
They're dead.
They definitely would have shoved me. But they're getting kind of old, so I wouldn't have fallen all the way down. I would have like caught myself on like a table and then stood back up. I got pride. Also, though, before we go, I want to say thanks to you guys, because actually I think it's all three of you that mentioned Discovery to me while we were doing the interview. Yeah. And I had no plans to watch it, but I just got intrigued by like little things you would mention. And especially Chris, he was talking about Naked Time, and he was talking about Spock. And he's like, if you followed this character for a long time, you sort of see what he's dealing with, and you see that even more in Discovery. And I was like, God, maybe I shouldn't watch Discovery. Oh, yeah. Damn it. And it just kept coming up in the interviews. So I've watched all of season 1, which I really liked.
Yeah.
And then I'm like maybe 5 episodes into season 2, which I like even more.
Oh, yeah.
Because they brought back the Pike stuff, and
season 2
just brought back number 1.
Yep.
I just love it. Like I'm so annoyed at the people that were like, well, it's not very Star Trek. Like, it is so Star Trek.
Exactly.
Especially once they get into season 2. Season 2 really starts to feel like Star Trek.
Very much so.
No, I agree. And I think what really sealed it was the speech that Michael gives at the end of season 1 about what Starfleet is. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, this is not just like somewhat Star Trek-ish. Like, this is literally like the heart of Star Trek.
Oh, absolutely.
And then I felt like that just jumped right into season 2, and everything they've explored is just so on point. Like, I really love this series. So I just want to say thanks, because I literally would not have watched it.
You're welcome
for the recommendations.
All right. Well, I think that is going to wrap it up for this episode. Steve, thank you so much for joining us. If you guys have not checked it out yet, go over to StarTrek.com and look up the article he wrote about us. The world's most prolific Star Trek band embarks on its final voyage. It's a great article. We loved talking to Steve during that interview. We loved talking to Steve during this interview. And Steve, if anybody wants to keep up with you, where can they find you online?
You can go to check out my newspaper at goodtimesantacruz.com, and you can find me at Steve Palopoli on Twitter.
Perfect. There we go. Any other parting words from you, Rittenhouse?
No.
That's dead on. Chris, are you still here with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Do you have any parting words for us?
Sure. It's been great to have you, Steve. Thanks for talking to us.
Thanks, you guys. It's really fun. Well, let's do it again sometime.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. We'll see you next time on 5 Year Mission, the podcast.
You said it right this time.
you for listening to this episode of 5-Year Mission, the podcast. If any of you are interested in listening to more of our music, you can check us out on YouTube or Spotify or iTunes or pretty much anywhere that you can listen to music. Just search for 5-Year Mission and we should be the first thing that comes up. If you would like to contact us in regards to the podcast or anything else that you want to talk to us about, you can email us at 5yearmissionband@gmail.com.
And for more information about the band, you can go to 5yearmission.net. And also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Fansets.com is your home for all things Star Trek pin related, including pin releases from DC, Harry Potter, and Firefly. You're bound to find something you'll like in the nearly 200 pins. Fansets is currently offering a super limited amount of Brent Spiner and Doug Jones autographed pins. These are almost sold out, and these are also not machine replicated, and both come with a certificate of authenticity. Also, brand spanking new this month, new pins featuring Captain Janeway, Luther Sloan, Major Harris, the Mako logo from Enterprise, Travis Mayweather, Commander Nhan, and Michael Burnham. And as an added bonus, listeners can get 15% off their entire order at fansets.com through our special discount code. Simply enter the word NOG at checkout, all caps, N-O-G, NOG, in honor of Mr. Aaron Eisenberg. Fansets. We are Star Trek, and we thank Fansets for sponsoring this week's episode. On the next 5-Year Mission, the podcast, we'll be doing another round of What Are Little Songs Made Of? This time, we're going to be inviting Mr. Chris Spurgeon from the band 5-Year Mission into the studio, comic book store studio, whatever, the back of a comic book store, to talk about the episode and the song, The Squire of Gothos. Stay tuned and behave yourselves.